In the second video of gun setup, we're going to talk about setting the height of comb. Hey guys, Rudy here at Ridgeline. Going back into gun setup today, we're going to talk about height of comb. So what is height of comb? Height of comb is essentially the height of the stock as it relates to your head, and it's what allows us to get our eyeball directly onto that Z-axis of the optic. Why is this important? Well, just like our length of pull is important for certain aspects of the fundamentals of marksmanship, the height of comb is important for sight alignment and sight picture. If we have a height of comb that doesn't fit us well, you typically either end up too low in the optic or too high in the optic. And that's going to prevent you from consistently maintaining a good sight picture and sight alignment. So what are we looking for here? Well, height of comb, easiest way to tell if it's correct or not is you actually want to get down on the rifle just like you're going to shoot it. So once you've made the adjustment to your length of pull, you get down on that rifle and we want to rest our cheek, this hard prominent bone right here, on top of the cheek piece here. You get down on the rifle, you close your eyes and relax, open them back up, and what we want to see is if there's any shadowing, either high or low in that optic. So if you have shadowing low, typically it means that your height of comb is set too low. Sometimes it's so bad that you won't even be able to see anything through the optic. The same thing's going to happen if your height of comb is too high. You get shadowing along the top edge. So if that does in fact take place, what we need to do is make an adjustment to the system to allow us to gain a correct sight picture and sight alignment behind that optic. First things first, what are we going to do if it's too low? Well, it is 2020, and as hopefully most of you have learned from the length of pull class, chassis systems are definitely the easiest way to start mitigating it. However, I know not everybody is there right now, and some of us really enjoy traditional stocks. So if your stock doesn't have a height of comb adjustment to it, we're going to go over a quick tutorial how to build up a cheek piece as needed. Now, unfortunately, I don't actually have any stocks that are non-adjustable, but we're going to use this M24 stock as it's kind of the closest representation that we have at hand. First things first, like always, we're going to actually clear the system out. Go ahead, attempt to place the weapon on safe, remove the source of feed, and conduct a 3-point safety check. Chamber, face of the bolt, magazine well. Make sure there's no live ammunition or brass in there. Let's talk a little bit about our materials that we're going to be working with. What we're going to go over today is kind of an old school traditional way of building one using some materials. It's not the most high speed, but it is one that pretty much everybody's going to have access to. So 4 main components that we have: good old fashioned duct tape, a little bit of double-sided tape right here, some scissors, in this case trauma shears, and an old computer mouse pad if you got one of those lying around somewhere. So what we're going to do with these guys is we're going to build up this cheek piece to appropriate height so we can actually get our eyeball to where it needs to be. So for the sake of convenience, I've kind of already pre-cut most of this stuff, but I'll just walk you through the process. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut the saddle. So the saddle is going to be the largest piece of your mat. And what this guy does is it's going to actually be the primary piece that wraps around the bulk of everything that we're doing here on the stock. So typically I like to cut these about 4 to 5 inches in height, and depending on the actual size or shape of your stock, you're probably going to be right around 8 to 10 inches. So from there, the next piece that you're going to need is your shims. So out of that same material, I like to cut these little 1/2 inch wide strips. Again, probably looking at about 4 or 5 inches in length. And depending on how high you need to go, you may need more or less. I got 5 cut here in about 1/4 inch a piece. This is going to give me a pretty good amount of elevation. So with those pieces cut, the next thing we're going to do is actually start building the stack. So when I say start building the stack, I'm going to be stacking up the shims using my double-sided tape to kind of build the internal framework that we're going to put the saddle over. So here, I got my double-sided tape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that down right along the top edge of that cheek piece. With that first stretch of tape down, I'm going to take my first shim and I'm just going to lay it right across the top of that. And that's just going to give us a nice solid base right there. And I'm going to continue to repeat this process until I get high enough. Okay, so as we build this up, again, it's important to have that double-sided tape between each layer. It's going to help the stack from shifting around or anything like that. Now, once you think that you're high enough, what we're going to do is we're going to take the saddle and we're going to lay the saddle over the top. So pretty much be starting to look something like this. At this point, you're going to want to kind of take a long piece of your duct tape. We're going to do just a quick wrap to hold this in place. When you're doing this, just be extra careful that you don't knock your stack over on the inside. All right, with the saddle roughly in place, at this point you'd want to get down behind it and just make sure that we're in the right ballpark. If you need to add or take away, what you want to do is take that saddle off, and then you can add or subtract a layer if necessary. So we're going to take the rest of our duct tape and we're going to wrap the entire circumference of the saddle. Pro tip here, if you're a right-handed shooter, you want to wrap to the left. If you're a left-handed shooter, you want to wrap to the right. This is going to mean when you get down behind the rifle and you actually set your face on here, when you lean into that cheek piece, it's actually going to pull it in towards you versus pushing it away. All right, so there it is. We've now completed our wraps. Again, going towards the left as we are a right-handed shooter. And you just want to keep wrapping that until it's nice and solid. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the semi-autos. So if you watch the length of pull video, you will remember Magpul PRS is pretty much going to be your best friend. The same is true for your height of comb. For those of you running the carbine, what I like to use is the Magpul CTR stock with the LaRue riser. So this is a reciprocating riser system that, very much like we built a cheek piece on a traditional stock, we can build off of that. This reciprocates, which means it's not going to interfere with the function of the charging handle. So what are we going to do if we have a height of comb that's too high? Well, at that point, the only thing we can do is bring the optic up to us. So my general rule of thumb I like to use for this is if you have half of your ocular lens being covered in shadow, typically you can probably get away with about 1/4 inch of rise in your new rings or your new mount. If you have more than half a shadowing across the ocular lens, I like to go with about 1/2 inch or so raise up in that height. Last but not least, I want to touch real quick on eye relief. So if we've changed our length of pull and we've changed our height of comb, there's a pretty good chance that our eye relief, being how close or how far away our eye is from the back of that optic, has probably changed a bit. But don't worry, because that is going to be covered in part 3, which is optic mounting. Quick recap on everything we talked about in height of comb. Why is it important? You need to have good height of comb in order to get behind the rifle to have a good sight picture and sight alignment. If you're turkey necking and kind of bobbing up and down, that's going to create this muscular strain, and it's not going to allow you to consistently place your eyeball behind the optic the same way every time. So again, this whole video, I hope it gives you some options and some tools to work with. And as always, if you guys have any questions, you can find us on the web or contact us directly, and we'll help get you set straight.